he's associating with these figures who are open, avowed neo-Nazis, I would say. Like, I think he's...
Yeah, like now
he's not there,
buddies
he's
with
pretty close.
which is one of the worst ones.
Yeah.
He teaches the gospel, but he is a fake pastor. He is obviously disqualified from pastoral ministry. And I think he never has been qualified for pastoral ministry.
He's been mentioned multiple times, and I've engaged with his stuff. Well, I've seen a couple of his stuff, but haven't spent much time with him. But I think he's an interesting figure to show where churches and church leaders can go wrong. So yeah. Joel Webbon, right? He's made the rounds. He was almost trying to tap into more mainstream conservative circles. I know he did an interview back in the day with Ali Stuckey. I think that's the route he was trying to go. And now he's in this weird spot where, like you said, he's associating with these figures who are open, avowed neo-Nazis, I would say. Like, I think he's... Yeah,
like now
he's not there, he's pretty close.
Which is one of the worst ones.
Yeah. So how does someone like Joel Webbon get there? And what is the lessons learned from someone who is, he's a big figure in his own way? What are the lessons that we learned from him, who's rightfully, I mean, in many ways, theologically, we would have agreements where he's criticizing dispensationalism, is broadly, reformed-ish, evangelical. What is the lesson learned with someone like Joel Webbon?
Yeah, so on paper, here's one thing I really don't like. On paper, Joel Webbon and we have very similar theology. We're both post-mill. We are both, well, I don't think he's theonomic, but I'm theonomic. We're reformed. We both want a Christian nation, even though our perceptions of that are very different. And by the way, that reminded me of something else. I think another tactic that I use whenever I approach the woke right people is I actually find that we agree, at least on the surface, until you dive into what they really believe. On the surface, we agree on almost everything, because they're like, oh, you must hate the Bible because you don't want a Christian nation, because you don't like Christian nationalism. And it's like, I've been called a Christian nationalist more times than I can count. I'm not afraid of the label Christian nationalism. I really do want a Christian nation. And so often they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And that kind of shuts them down often. And so it's like, I actually agree with you on the surface, on so many of these things, but it's the application of those ideas that I think we differ. And I think the more you get into the application of those ideas, it's more and more obvious that many of these people are very, very lost. And so with Joel Webbon, I think it's more obvious now than ever that he's I don't know if I would call him a false teacher, because he teaches the gospel, but he is a fake pastor. He is obviously disqualified from pastoral ministry. And I think he never has been qualified for pastoral ministry. There was a document that was released just like earlier this year, I think, about a situation very early in his ministry where he slept with a church member, and then he refused to step down at that point. And then years later, like they found out, and his church elders like confronted him with this sin, and they told him to take a break from ministry. And then he said he did, while actually he was trying to plant a church in Texas. And so, I mean, there were like all this big, long, massive list of like disqualifying things. His elders, his like legal ecclesiastical authority said this guy's disqualified from ministry, and these people don't care. So it's like, oh, we don't care. I'm just going to go start an independent Baptist church or independent whatever. I'm going to start a Presbyterian church without a presbytery like Ogden does. And they're in the same crowd. And so, when you look at their character and when you look at their past, it's like you realize these people aren't actually qualified for pastoral ministry. And what kind of person would want to bring that judgment onto themselves of being a pastor if they were so blatantly disqualified from pastoral ministry, and every mentor figure that they've had for their entire ministry has told them that they're disqualified? So I think the kind of person that takes is, one, somebody who doesn't actually care about the word of God, which disqualifies them from pastoral ministry. And then two, who cares more about something like attention or money or building a following than actually shepherding the flock. And on top of that, you can add the fact that he's falling for the woke right stuff, and he's partnering with Nick Fuentes, who is a professed neo-Nazi, and he's gay. And I mean, it's crazy. So it's like, it gets more and more outrageous every day. And I've been calling out Joel Webbon as a fake pastor and disqualified and just a really bad guy that nobody should be taking seriously for years now. But another thing is, I used to actually like him. Like I'm not, I wasn't always biased against Joel Webbon. I listen to his podcast often. People often are like, you've probably never even listened to his podcast. It's like, you have no idea, dude. I listen to him a lot. I appreciated him. I have a photo with him where I met him at a conference one time, and I was fooled. I didn't know much about him. I just listened to his podcast. But the more I learned, especially as I saw him starting to go this direction, that told me I'm not even sure if he's, full in on the things that he says he believes, because he changes his mind about things so much. But what that ultimately tells me is not necessarily that Joel's a neo-Nazi or whatever, but he just wants attention. He wants to build a following, and that's not the kind of behavior that a pastor ought to have. And I think that is, they're either malicious, or they're greedy, or they're just stupid. And I think in the case of somebody who is in a leadership position, the stupidity kind of is hard to justify. It's like, it's easy to be a stupid person who's a follower of these guys, but it's really hard to, for years, build up some kind of platform and lead people to such an extent as a lot of these people who are leaders in the Christian woke right movement, and then not be malicious.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but I think they all fall into they're prosperity preachers of a different kind, because we're no longer in this, their dollars. They might not be chasing dollars, even though it results from it. But like you said, they're chasing attention. We're in the attention economy. Social media is completely opened up. I think when Elon Musk bought Twitter, it opened up Twitter in a way that has changed the game for a lot of these woke right pastors, that they can build a huge audience. They can go on Tucker Carlson now and espouse their ideas in many ways. So the attention economy, these prosperity preachers that are prosperous through the eyeballs that they're getting, and even it motivates them to not just build their own following, but to also be worse, because then they get people to respond to it as well. So it's a confounding problem. So, man, Joel Webbon is an interesting. Is there any? Have you found in your time digging in and refuting these types of people and engaging with them, have you seen any figures that have gone that route and come back and are now saying, hey, this is crazy? I can't think of a major figure yet.
I've seen, I can't think of any like leader type people, I don't think, because, well, which is kind of indicative of the fact that the vast majority of people in leadership positions who call themselves pastors are not pastors. They're disqualified. And this is just a problem we have in America. Like, I think the vast majority of pastors are probably disqualified from pastoral ministry. But that, that doesn't mean that just like the most of the pastors in your circle or most of the pastors that you appreciate are fake pastors. Like, I think I found a good number of solid pastors to follow. And that's something that that's important for us to find. Like, we should find actually good, trustworthy people. Because one reason I know that people follow Joel Webbon, and it's how I followed Joel Webbon originally, was because he had at least eventually, I later learned that he didn't really, but he was a conservative voice that was speaking out against the left around 2020. And he, I thought, had a good response to COVID. Now, he was criticizing it later. What actually happened was he locked down his church and they met outside and they all wore masks just like everybody else. So, so it's like, it's just more evidence that it's like, you actually have no idea what you're talking about. And, like the right response, ironically, because that's his fake ministry's name, that churches should have had was, a lot of churches were legitimately confused, and they they were like, oh, maybe this disease is real, or maybe it's, super actually dangerous. Let's wear masks, before they knew that masks weren't effective, whatever. And then, after a week or two, they were like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, that was good. But if you did it for months and then you never publicly repented for it, and that's a weird one for me. And that's not to say that people like that can never become trustworthy, because repentance is a thing and forgiveness really is a thing, and people really can make mistakes. But I'm just saying, with people like him, that's actually a pattern of behavior. You're just going along with the crowd and what the crowd does. But
yeah,
I've seen a lot more of people who are followers of these people who change their minds. And especially as these people get crazier and crazier, where it's like, or if I'm just allowed to have a reasonable conversation with these people where we can actually talk back and forth and they're actually willing to listen, often their minds can be changed. If somebody is actually interested in truth, rarely are they interested in truth. But if you find the rare person who is interested in truth from those crowds, they will be convinced, because the evidence is so insurmountable against these people.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that these ideas and these people, these leaders that we've mentioned, do they have a shelf life? Are they coming to the end, or are they picking up steam?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think my prediction with Joel Webbon, for example, is I don't think he's going to be around much longer, at least as a pastor. He seems to be going the public figure route. He has these regular meltdowns from the pulpits. People share his sermons where he's like the Room movie clip where it's like, everybody betrays me, I'm fed up with this world. It seems like that's what Joel Webbon is doing from the pulpit.
Do you know how many people go to his church? Like, how many people is he
preaching to? It's relatively small. They meet in like a barbecue restaurant basement or something. So it can't be too many. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has a couple hundred at least. I don't know.
Okay.
But he has, he has over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So plenty of people follow the guy, even if not a lot of people go to his church locally. But yeah, I think ultimately God made the world. I'm post-millennial. I'm optimistic about the future. God made the world where stupidity has a shelf life. Stupidity is short-lived. Evil will not last forever. Even the woke left ideology didn't last forever. Eventually the pendulum is going to swing another way. And I think the more times the pendulum swings back and forth, more reasonable people are made. So I am better equipped to deal with the woke right stuff because I really understood the woke left stuff well. And what also I think that tells us is, if somebody understood the woke left stuff well, but somebody like Joel Webbon, it's like, oh, he was saying all the right stuff about the left and about, the tyranny of the government during COVID and all that. But if he misunderstands the woke right stuff, which he is, then that tells me he never even understood the woke left stuff in the first place, because he's falling prey to exactly the same stuff that they were, because he's one of them. And so it's like, if somebody truly was well equipped against the woke left stuff, and they came out of that, like I did, was like, whoa, I realize this stuff is bad. I'm prepared for it when it happens again. And look, it happened again. And so now I'm going to be even more prepared. And like, hopefully more people are going to come out of this and be like, okay, now I hate Marxism and I'm well equipped for the next thing. And the pendulum is just going to keep swinging back and forth. It's probably going to create like, all this hatred of women and minorities is just like BLM. Hatred of white people created actual white supremacists. Calling everybody Nazis created actual Nazis. So all this stuff that the woke right's doing, where they are calling everything feminism and they're calling everyone Zionist, like they're actually contributing, I think, to like a future mega dispensationalism or like future mega feminism. so I think that's going to happen, but also more reasonable people are going to be created as the pendulum swings back and forth. And the important thing is, those of us who realize better now, we need to be prepared for that kind of thing. But yeah, ultimately, I think, especially in pastoral ministry, fake pastors really do not have a good time. Like the criticism eventually adds up. And even if they continue in their pastoral ministries, people eventually are going to stop taking them seriously. Like Joel Osteen, has a massive church, but thankfully broadly, the Christian community doesn't take Joel Osteen seriously anymore. And so I think the same thing is
Mhm.
going to happen with these guys.
Yeah, I feel a similar name to Mark Driscoll. I don't know how you feel about him, but I know I've seen that with how
Yeah,
he
no, like
discredited
Mark
his
Driscoll,
entire ministry. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's in a similar boat where he has done some like outrageous things over the years, and he's also said some good things. And I know a lot of people.
Mhm.
He kind of sparked the Young Restless and Reformed movement, and
Yeah.
I came into Reformed theology after that was a fad. But so I was never really into Mark Driscoll, but like I can see why people like him. But also I think he's probably not qualified for pastoral ministry. He probably should stay out of the public sphere. Seems like somebody you shouldn't take seriously.
Yeah.